Are you one of those people who always buy their cakes at a bakery but still wonder if they can bake them themselves? Today, I'll show you how to bake from scratch this decadent and delicious chocolate cake with chocolate frosting. In a medium bowl, I'm gonna combine the flour, cocoa powder, baking soda, baking powder, and salt. And we're gonna set aside. In a larger bowl, I'm gonna combine sugar and eggs, oil. Oil will give you a much better texture than butter. Yes, it won't have that buttery taste that most people like about their pastry or cakes, but your cake will be moist and tender, and it will stay moist and tender way longer. So go with oil. Vanilla. Then we're gonna add buttermilk, and strong coffee. Coffee enhances the chocolate flavor. It will give your cake a much deeper taste. But if you don't like coffee, you can replace it with hot water. And now we're gonna gradually add our dry ingredients. You don't want to overmix, so stop when everything is combined. And that's what we're looking for. So I have here 3 9-inch cake pans. I have buttered them, lined them with parchment. I'm also gonna butter the parchment. And because we're making chocolate cake, I floured my cake pans with cocoa powder for more depth and richness. I'm using a measuring cup to evenly spread the batter between the 3 pans. Now I'm gonna bake my cakes for about 30 minutes in a 350 degrees preheated oven. If you are using only 2 pans, so if you're only making 2 layers, you may want to bake them for a little bit longer, let's say like 10 to 15 minutes. At the end, you know your oven better than anybody, so check the doneness after about like 30 minutes with a toothpick in the center, in the middle of your cakes. If it comes out clean, then your cakes are done. My cakes are now baked. I'm gonna let them cool in the pans for about an hour or so, and then I'll flip them into a cooling rack. So to frost my cakes, I'm going old school with a chocolate buttercream frosting. So let's get started. I have here butter at room temperature. It's really soft, as you can see, and I'm gonna beat it until creamy. Now that it's super creamy, I'm gonna add in my powdered sugar or icing sugar, cocoa powder, a pinch of salt, and vanilla. And I'm gonna beat on low speed. And now I'm gonna add milk. You can also replace milk with heavy cream. The buttercream is now ready. My cakes are ready to be frosted. They're not only cooled, they're actually frozen. So after they were cooled, I wrapped them in plastic wrap and popped them in the freezer for about 2 or 3 hours. I just find it a lot easier to work with cakes when they're frozen. They actually don't break, and the crumb coating part is a lot easier to do. I haven't really trimmed my cakes. They're a little bit off, but that's okay. Now just be generous with the buttercream. And always the last layer upside down. So now we're just gonna crumb coat the cake. The crumb coat, it's basically just a fancy name for a fine layer of frosting that goes all over your cake and helps lock in all those crumbs in your cake. So it stops them from going crazy on you when you start frosting your cake. It also helps to fill in all the gaps that you have in between your layers. So if you want a clean looking cake, don't skip this step. So now all you want to do is crumb coat the cake. Lock in all those crumbs so it's easier to frost and it looks cleaner. So don't worry if it doesn't look great now. That's not the goal at this point. Okay, so I'm gonna get all of this back to the ball. So remove any excess and make sure that all the holes, at least the big ones, are filled. For this step, you can also use a ruler. And there you go. And now I'm just gonna pop it in the fridge for about 30 minutes and then we'll bring it back and continue to work on it. So the crumb coat has set in. Now let's just finish up the cake. So now make sure all the holes are filled properly. And we're just gonna keep going around to have it all even out. And just turn the table. And then pull away. And pull away. If you like today's video, you are gonna love my French fudge chocolate cake. Click right here and check out the video. It's super easy to make and it is to die for.